Hello, everyone.
Hi there. I hit start, so we're officially live, and let's see if any um, candidates are in as attendees, and I'll pull them through to be panelists. But let's get started because we only have 1 hour together, everyone. And I know that mayoral debate is happening at 7.
Yep.
So let's do this, everyone. Hi, welcome. This is Council District 29 in Queens. I know we're missing some candidates, so I'm sure they'll be joining us. I know that there was just a rally about Israel right there in the community. So let's just dive into this part. Welcome to Politics NY with Sky. Schneps Media is the only media outlet providing a platform for every single New York City Council candidate to have their voice heard and faces and personalities seen. District 29 Queens. It's a seat currently held by Karen Kozlowitz. She is term limited. So it's an open seat for these candidates that you're going to meet right now. And I've met some of them on my 3 questions in 3 minutes series. So if there are candidates here who haven't done it, I think Aleda, you're the only one I haven't interviewed on my 3 questions in 3 minutes. You can sign up to do that with me.
Okay. I thought I had. I'll do it when we're done.
Okay, great. Yes, let's do that. But I want to keep this debate light and easy and fun because nothing is light, easy, and fun anymore. So let's make this light, easy, and fun. It's fast, it's fun, it's a forum, it's being recorded. You can watch it on PoliticsNY.com. You can subscribe to our newsletter and Schneps Media, Politics NY. We're here to amplify your voice. This year is a tough one where you're not able to be out and about as much as you were in years past when you're running for office. So we want to amplify what you're doing. So let us know, tag us, submit op-eds, and we'll get it out there across our channels. So thank you, District 29, the neighborhoods, Rego Park, Forest Hills, Kew Gardens, and Richmond Hill. And let's meet the candidates, everyone. We have a live audience with us here tonight. So live audience, if you have questions, you can submit them and let's see if we can get to some of them. But let's begin, I guess in alphabetical order by last name, to just give us your elevator pitch of who you are and why you're running, what makes you the best person in this race. So I guess, Aleda, I guess that makes you first.
Okay, I'll take it. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. It's really nice to see my neighbors, other candidates here in Sky. I really appreciate all the work you're doing to just give us all a platform and help folks learn about the election. It's really great. My name is Aleda Gagarin. I am a Democrat running for New York City Council here in District 29 to represent Rego Park, Forest Hills, Kew Gardens, and Richmond Hill. I am a queer mother of 3, a nonprofit leader, a local CYO youth basketball coach. I am a local activist and community organizer, and I am running because we are facing crises across public health, housing, jobs, the environment, and policing, the likes of which we have never seen before. But I do believe that those crises present us with an opportunity to reimagine what it means to be a New Yorker and how we take care of each other. I'm also running because my neighbors asked me to. A very diverse coalition of local activists, organizers, and neighbors came together to ask me to run for this seat, building off of work we've been doing in the community together for years. So this is very much a community-driven campaign that I'm very proud of. I also have a master's in urban planning with a focus on community advocacy. So this is very much my skill set, municipal policy. In my day job, I negotiate budgets and fight for resources. That's my bread and butter. So I have the skills to create effective change in the council, and it would be an honor and a privilege to serve my neighbors and to continue to build community in this way together.
Thank you, Aleda. And I see David Aronov joined, who has an A last name, but we'll put him at the end now. Let's go to Eliseo next.
Well, thank you, Sky. And again, more importantly, thank you to everyone watching at home who really is tuned into what's happening and has a vested interest in where this community is heading, which I think we can all agree is not heading in a good direction. Talking about the borough jail in Kew Gardens, and talking about an increase in Asian hate crimes across the district, as well as across the city, and violence against our small businesses, whether through burglaries or break-ins, and then the increase in homelessness across the district, especially those with serious mental illnesses. I'm running to tackle these issues head on in a straightforward, no nonsense platform of 1, making sure that the borough jail is not built in Kew Gardens day one, period. 2, investing in clean and safe streets, making sure our Department of Sanitation has the resources that they need to do the job to the best of their ability, as well as working with our local precincts to tap down in this disturbing increase in violent crime, as well as investing into our parks, our schools, and green infrastructure projects. And I say all of this with the perspective of being a native son. Someone went to school at PS 101, went to church at Our Lady Queen of Martyrs. I graduated from St. John's University with a degree in government politics. And after my time at St. John's, I got to work on a local level with Councilman Vallone in Bayside and Joseph Ferris Copeland in Corona, as well as with US Congressman Matthew Cartwright and Charlie Rangel in DC before he retired. One of the proudest things I could point to during my time in DC is working on the James Adroga 9/11 Health and Compensation Act, making sure that we got financial benefits, health protections, healthcare to those first responders, to those volunteers, the survivors of those people that made that heroic sacrifice on that day, to making sure that they're taken care of. I want to take all of this quality experience, I want to bring it back home to make sure we do those things that I mentioned before. No borough jail in Kew Gardens, clean and safe streets, and make sure we invest in our parks, schools, and green infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn Schulman.
Okay, great. I want to thank Schneps Media and Politics New York for hosting this important event tonight. I'm Lynn Schulman. I'm running because it's time for a change. We are facing the worst public health crisis of our lifetime. And I have devoted my personal and professional life to healthcare advocacy, which was born out of the HIV/AIDS movement, where I saw a lot of people die needlessly because of the indifference of those in power. And we're seeing the same thing today with the pandemic. And Queens was the epicenter of the virus, and that's no accident. That's because first of all, we have the least hospital capacity of any borough, and we've had 10 hospitals close over the last 20 years, some of them in this very community. So I have a solution for that. I want to make hospital capacity assessment part of any land use application. I also want to invest in our public schools. I want to bring back, I'm hearing an echo.
Yes, I just muted.
Okay. I want to bring back a mom and pop local stores. And I want to make sure that we have robust services for seniors, including making sure that our senior centers are open. I will build coalitions to make change, to bring us back from COVID and make our communities thrive and succeed again. And I can't do this without your vote. So I'm asking you to please vote for me on June 22nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug Shapiro.
Thanks, Sky, and thanks, PoliticsNY. My name is Douglas Shapiro. I live in Forest Hills with my wife and our dog, Nala. I've spent my career solving public sector problems with smart economic solutions. At the IMF, our team helped the small nation of Guinea-Bissau receive technical assistance. On projects for the USDA, our team helped reform states' processes so folks could get their food SNAP benefits on time. You're going to hear a lot about policy tonight. Let's focus on character for a second. I'm the only candidate in this race to accept donations solely from individuals. $0 from corporations, $0 from lobbyists, $0 from special interests. My only agenda is improving our community. I'm the only candidate in this race to attempt to reach out to every single other city council candidate, so I'll have allies day one. I have a ton of respect for my opponents. They've been activists, essential workers, raised their children during the most challenging year in memory, and sometimes they wear more than one of those hats. But no candidate here will be able to simply enact their particular vision for the community in the city council. Now, the last few years, I've advised chief financial officers. These are people that have risen to the pinnacle of their profession. They can be arrogant. They can be narcissists, not so different than politicians. And every day I collaborate with them. I have to give bad news to them. I have to tell them that they missed a target. I have to work with them in a non-threatening way to improve their results. A question everyone on the line should ask themselves is, do I vote for a candidate whose vision is closest to my own? Or do I choose the candidate whose very living depends on effectively working with narcissists day in and day out, on having empathy for them, on getting things done with people that already think they have all the answers? My name is Douglas Shapiro, and I'd greatly appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Doug. There's just one thing you said that I disagree with, And it is that tonight will not be a lot about policy. It'll really be about character and personality.
Good, good. I'm leaning into the theme then.
Awesome. Thank you. Next is Edwin Wong.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Sky, thank you, as well as Policy New York and Schneps Media for this opportunity. And hello and greetings to everyone that's watching us, wherever you're watching from. My name is Edwin Wong, and I'm a born and raised New Yorker, specifically here in Queens. I'm raising my two young sons, Kennedy and Eric, here in Forest Hills, where I've lived for about 15 years with my wife, Catherine. I am carrying a family legacy of service to the community, as my late father did when he was alive. Just a little bit about myself again. I established the Forest Hills Asian Association here, which is a local civic nonprofit. And we kick off each year by bringing everyone together at a State of Forest Hills Civic. We invite about a dozen organizations to come speak about their programs and engage the community. And if I'm lucky enough to be a council member, I will kick off each year with a State of District Town Hall. And again, just to engage the community, to listen to them, hear from them, and again, be held accountable by the community. So every time I go back, they can say, hey, this is what we said to you last time, and what have you been doing since? I'm also serving in my 7th year on the local Queens Community Board, and I've encouraged members of the community to join the board so that it's more reflective of the community. And I'm also a board of the Alliance for Flushing Meadows Corner Park, which supports programs and initiatives, or I should say free programs for park goers. And it's so important to have that outdoor space, especially during the pandemic. And I'm running, to bring really unity and leadership on different positions that we can move forward with together. One, being education, making sure that our children have quality education, supporting our small business community, which are the lifeblood of our community, by trying to get them more grants in any zip code that they are, and minimize any of these kinds of inspector fines that they're having. And again, for our seniors as well, I'm proposing something called universal home care, which we want to make sure that our seniors are able to have home attendants or home health aides to visit them when they need them most, especially during these times of need. And again, just to bridge the digital divide with our families and our children. And as some of the other candidates will mention, opposing the Kew Gardens jails. I really want to make sure that, we have a safe environment where our kids can grow up, and also make sure that we also fund our hospitals, protect our doctors and healthcare professionals. And everyone thinks the pandemic is over, but it's not. And I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of all the efforts and their sacrifices during this time, and be there for them. So thank you.
Thank you. And now I see David Aronov is here. David, we're doing introductions. I know you were at the rally for Israel.
Yep. Ready? Okay.
Yeah, tell us about yourself.
Okay, yes. So I was at a local community rally, so a little bit tardy. I apologize for that. Good evening, everybody. My name is David Aronov. I'm running for city council because it's time for a new generation of leadership. I'm a community organizer, nonprofit founder, first generation American, proud graduate of our public schools. And, our city is at a pivotal point right now. COVID-19 has exposed deep inequities in society. A little bit, background how this came to be. And I'll start with my parents. My parents immigrated to this country from Uzbekistan. My dad worked as a street food vendor. My mom cleaned offices to get by. And then my mom worked at Parkway Hospital right here in the district. She worked there from 1993 until 2008, when the hospital closed down because the state said the hospital was no longer essential to the community. We know now that hospitals, serve us in, we saw Forest Hills Hospital, right? During the pandemic, 14 deaths about in a single day. And Queens has the lowest amount of hospital beds out of any borough. We didn't need Parkway Hospital to close. We should have had our elected officials at the time fighting harder to save it. And, my experience, I think, is what makes me uniquely able for this position and to run for this position. I worked in the city council for over 7 years. I worked for Councilmember Karen Kozlowitz as Director of Community Relations. And over the last year, worked for the city's efforts on the 2020 census. I was the Queens lead organizer. This council district received one of the highest census self-response rates across the city. And what that implicates is federal funding for so many programs that we rely on: education, senior centers, hospitals, parks, libraries. And when we started that work with the census, the US Census Bureau estimated that we would lose 2 seats in Congress. We only lost 1 by 89 people. As disappointing that is, it is a major accomplishment compared to other large US cities. And during the height of the pandemic, I was out. I organized a mutual aid system in the community. We got people meals, groceries, gave out thousands of masks for free on the street. And I've always been a person to step up when people have been in need. During the vaccine rollout, my campaign team scheduled over 200 people in the district for a vaccine appointment because we saw the convoluted tech system where appointments open up 1 second and we're gone the next.
Mhm.
And we need to ensure that we have a council member who is deeply rooted in their community, have done the work, will continue to show up. And I think, it's time to elect people that will bring something different to the table and won't, just run on empty promises. We need to save our small businesses, expand affordable housing, support our seniors, and ensure educational opportunities for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, Avi, are you there? Avi,
He's on mute.
you're in the
I think
car.
he's driving. I hope not, because my kids are biking around our streets right now.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, Avi. Ooh,
Hi, everybody. Well, yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks, Sky, and thanks, Schneps, for hosting this tonight. It's a pleasure to be here. It's been a little bit of a hectic day, so I apologize for coming on a little bit late as well. My name is Avi Cyperstein. I was born in this neighborhood. I was raised in this neighborhood. I work here. I live here. I volunteer over here. My background, my first job, I worked with the Section 8 shelter housing units in the Bronx, providing proper arrangements for those in the Section 8 shelter housing units, which is now being reopened for applications. I then transitioned into healthcare, and I managed 2 healthcare facilities in the Bronx. I was responsible for 350 residents to make sure that all their needs were met. And then I transitioned from there into home healthcare services, where I was actually going into patients' homes, setting them up with home healthcare services all over New York City, working with hospitals, home healthcare companies, medical supply companies, to ensure that elderly and those who are recovering from short-term rehab facilities were able to get all the care, the supplies, and the staffing that they need to be able to age in place and live well and live better at home and live longer and have a better quality of life. During that time, I also opened a nonprofit organization. That was 13 years ago. We started with 10 volunteers. Today, we have over 100 volunteers who actively provide services, roughly 10 to 15 calls per day throughout the Queens area. Anything non-medical related, we can do. So for example, last week, someone dropped their phone down the drain. We had a couple of guys who went in and got the phone out of the drain. A couple of weeks ago, a canine unit left their dog locked in the car by mistake with the keys in the engine. Our team was able to get the door open and get them out. So we provide a wide variety of services. And if we have a staff, or if we have a volunteer, I should say, that can do it, we take the call. I also became an EMT, a emergency medical technician, and I've been a first responder responding to emergencies throughout this district for the last 13 years. And during the height of the pandemic that I made the decision to actually run for office, seeing the lack of leadership that we had, making poor decisions. And it's one thing if our politicians are going to play politics with our tax dollars, hard-earned tax. It's another thing when they're going to play politics with healthcare. And that was the bottom line for me, where I said, we need a change. It's time for me to step up, and it's time for me to do something about this. And I looked around and I said, you know what? I have the experience, I have the qualifications, and I have the knowledge of the electeds, as well as a variety of people and resources and networks throughout this district to be able to lead us. And so as an EMT, I can save your life. As a nonprofit founder, I can navigate bureaucracy. And as a small business owner, I can handle budgets and make proper financial decisions. As someone who has worked with elected officials, I have existing relationships with them, and I can delegate and collaborate with them. And as your council member, I will be able to do a lot. It's time for a change, and it's time for Avi.
thank you, Avi. Now, you got some feedback here. People were thinking that you were driving while you were videoing that. Is that true?
I'm not driving at the moment. I'm pulled over on the side of the road.
Okay, thank you.
I would
I'm
not
gonna
drive.
mute you because we're getting some feedback from your phone. All right, let's go in the same order and we'll keep the answers short and sweet if we can, please. I know in your intros, you talk about a variety of issues. I know a lot of you mentioned healthcare and I know that there's a lot of seniors in your district. But let's go in order where you can pick one issue and why or what you would do to champion that one issue for District 29. And we'll begin with Aleda.
Yeah, so my biggest issue for the district and for our whole city is budget justice and a just recovery from COVID. COVID has laid bare the inequities across every single thing from healthcare to housing to small businesses, the environment, like literally everything. And the only way we can truly recover from this crisis and make sure that too many neighbors aren't lost and that it never happens again is to make sure we're ensuring to have a just budget that prioritizes community care, investing in our kids, making sure our elders can age in place, supporting the small businesses that have always kept New York running, fully funding our public hospitals and putting a moratorium on closing them. So I'm gonna wrap everyone's ability to thrive into a just budget.
Thank you. Eliseo.
Thank you for the question, Sky. My number one priority is crime and public safety, making sure that we address that in many ways, starting with the borough jail, starting with Asian hate crimes across the neighborhood, starting with small business violence, as well as with the homeless that have serious mental illnesses. And each one of these things, I could talk forever about. Just for the sake of getting through more questions, I'll try to keep this to under 2 minutes. The borough jail, again, a 19-story facility housing hundreds of people accused of violent felonies or those with serious mental illnesses within walking distance of public schools, within walking distance of homes and residences. The process was rushed. There was no input from the community. And I really do fear for long-term implications that one Rikers will become 4 Rikers. When it comes to Asian hate crimes, again, it's disturbing, heartbreaking on every corner, whether it be the subway or it be around the city. People have to look over their shoulder with the fear that they'll be attacked because of where they're from, or they have to stay on guard when they're on their subway platforms because they're afraid of getting pushed onto the tracks by someone that has a mental illness. I want to make sure that we can keep our public safe and provide treatments to those who need it most through an expansion of Kendra's law. I want to make sure that we work with the local precincts to safeguard our small businesses and to safeguard, again, our seniors, Asian Americans, everyone across the district. Crime and public safety is number one, and if elected, I'll make sure it stays that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn.
Yeah, so as I said in my opening statement, healthcare is, I think, the major issue here. When I've been talking to voters around the district, they tell me that's their biggest issue. They've either had COVID or they couldn't get care, or they couldn't get the vaccine. I mean, this is really important. We have, as I said earlier, we have the lowest hospital capacity of any borough. I actually wrote an op-ed about it last year. That was the #1 op-ed on Gotham Gazette for the year. And it got actually repeated by one of the local media outlets recently. It is a very big issue. The other issue too is bringing healthcare options that are accessible and affordable to the district. Right now, we don't have that much in terms of just hospitals that are around, so we need public health centers here. I've been endorsed by the Committee of Interns and Residents and the New York State Nurses Association, and I'm actually working with them now to try and make more slots for doctors and trying to figure out how we can do that in this community. So it's really important. We can't let people die. It's a matter of life and death.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Doug.
Thanks, Guy. I'm going to cheat a little bit and give you 2 issues that I think are really important. So as you see, support our seniors over my shoulder. Right now, the Department for the Aging has about a $300 million budget. This is an austerity budget. If it was funded at the same level that we funded youth services, it would be triple. That budget would be triple. And Department for the Aging provides so many important services for seniors in our community and all across the city. I texted thousands of people asking them if they need help getting a vaccination appointment. And many, many people responded. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know where to go. Homebound people didn't know the right resource. They didn't know that they could actually request a homebound vaccination. So we seriously need to rethink the level of funding for the Department of Aging. And one other thing I'll add is there are very few issues you'll hear that you can throw money at and it'll solve. One of those issues in this community is the trash. So sanitation funding was cut, $150 million. It led to Catherine Garcia's resignation. But the trash in our community is just outrageous. There are way too few trash cans on the corners. You see the trash pile out across on commercial, outside of commercial businesses, outside of apartment buildings. And this is one of the issues that there isn't a systemic problem here. It's just, we throw money at this problem goes away, and we need to make sure to solve this trash issue.
Thank you. I see another candidate has joined us, Derek Zhang.
Yeah, I just came back from the rally to support Israel. I'm sorry I was late.
That's okay, thank you. So we're gonna continue in our order, Derek, and I'll put you at the end.
Sure,
Okay?
no problem. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So Edwin Wong, next on your #1 issue and what makes you the person to solve it.
So again, I think my issue, the #1 issue that I'm going to be focusing on is really our small business and our business community in general. I feel that we need to increase the funding for our small business, giving them grants, giving them low interest loans. As a commercial banker for about 15 years, I understand their needs. That's the communities I will take to the council to make sure that, you know, funding is available for all businesses. Right now, it's only certain zip codes and certain income brackets, and I want to make sure that we can expand that to as many businesses that we can. I think as we help the small business employ, whether it be the family members or other staff members, they in turn can, you know, employ others as well in the business, and they can in turn work and maybe even start their own small businesses. So again, it's a trickle effect. I think with employment, you reduce unemployment. It's not going to cure, and I'm sure it's not going to, you know, fix everything, but again, it'll fix some of the unemployment that we have. I think some of that also may lead to maybe fixing some of the crime that's happening in the community. We are seeing an increase in crime. So again, some of the employment may help with that. Again, I think some of the businesses, again, are being fined and by inspectors. I think we need to reduce or try to get some credit back for them if we can. During COVID, they were just, a lot of them were just in business barely, and they were getting fined by inspectors from the city. So, you know, the city can't say they support small businesses and go turn around and fine them. So again, really working with the small business community and helping them is what I think that we need to do most. And then they bring in tax revenues, and that will help with some of these other areas, whether it be maybe funding education programs to educate everyone about anti-Asian hate, against anti-Semitism, against all hate, against people of color, the LGBT community. It'll help with, you know, some of the funding is needed at the hospitals. Again, that's another thing. And it'll help with funding other programs, whether it be with the aging, in other areas that we do know that there is a need for our seniors. And again, these are again, the things I think that many just maybe take for granted in terms of our small business community and our business community in general. So again, that is really the focus that I will be working on.
Thank you. David Aronov.
Yeah, thank you, Sky. You know, I think the #1 issue right now in everybody's mind, which encompasses other issues, is COVID-19 recovery, right? How is our city going to bounce back? How are we going to get back on our feet? And how are we going to rebuild and restructure different city services and agencies? I think part of that is public safety, right? If we're going to reopen and people are going to go back to work, people need to feel safe going back to work, and that's in transit, that's in the city. I think part of that is small businesses. We need to support and save our small businesses that were suffering even before the pandemic. We need to reduce predatory fining from different city agencies. We need to expand and better promote the visiting inspector program to ensure businesses can receive a free consultation on compliance with city laws and licenses. We need to pass the Small Business Job Survival Act. We need to work with the Department of Small Business Services to help small biz adapt to different tech platforms. And we need to expand language access. Many small business owners in this district don't speak English as their first language, and they're getting left behind. In addition, Rego Park and Forest Hills has the second highest population of seniors in the city. And we need to increase the Department for the Aging's budget. I agree with Doug on that point. We need to create a one-stop shop for seniors to apply for different city services. We need to automatically enroll seniors into the SCREEP program, which only about half of those eligible are enrolled. And you know, we really need to improve the Accessoride program. Accessoride is called Stressoride, and it shouldn't be that way. And part of the senior platform is also fully funding senior centers in the district.
Thank you. Avi, your #1 issue and how you're going to fix it. Are you there? Maybe he's frozen. I think he's frozen. So let's skip Avi for now. Let's go to Derek Zhang, who just joined us. Derek, do you want to give us a 1-minute overview of who you are and maybe incorporate your number one issue into that? Oops, you're on mute.
Hi, yeah, I'm Donghui Zhang. I thank you, Sagai, and everyone who organized this event. I'm a father of 2 children, so they both go to public school from K to 12 in Forest Hill and in the city. So, and before that, I work on Wall Street, and I came from China. I'm a first generation immigrant. So so for me, the number one issue is I agree everything is related to the COVID recovery. So so then we can break down into 3 subjects. So for education, so we need to give every child a good education. But for now, the most important thing is to make sure that the school fully reopen in September. And there are a lot of other issues like the GNT programs are being taken away. So we need to take that back. So we need to motivate all the kids to learn. And on the safety, so now the safety, so we have the anti-Asian, anti-Semitism, hate crimes happening in our city almost daily, or I mean, so but and even in our district, so it happens, I think, bi-weekly. So every 2 weeks, 1 or 2 weeks, we see an attack in the subway or on the street, targeting Asian, targeting Jewish people. So we cannot tolerate that. So we need to fully support our policemen and our law enforcement to do their job, so to make our district safe. And so for the COVID recovery of small business, so we should continue to give them tax break. We should help them. And on the transportation, definitely transportation is also related to safety. So now the subway is not safe anymore. A lot of people are afraid to take subway, and the subway is not clean anymore. So garbage everywhere. So we really need to find out all the money that have been. We need to when I get elected, I will make sure the city's budget is being spent properly. So there's no waste of money like in the thrifty program from the mayor's wife who spent 800 million for nothing. So we need to allocate the funding properly to make sure that our business, our school, and our transportation, our senior centers, our hospitals to function most efficiently.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sky.
Thank you. Avi, are you there now? You're muted. Let's hear your number one issue.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so I think the number one issue is, of course, COVID recovery. And that includes a few things, which I think primarily is going to be broken down to healthcare and public safety. I think people right now are worried about being able to afford healthcare for the future going forward. I think there's a lot of healthcare needs that our district is lacking. We do need more beds. As a first responder during the pandemic, I can tell you that we were assisting families to make decisions based on the amount of beds that were available in hospitals, which is not something that we should ever have to do. It felt very much like a third world country, and it's unacceptable. When it comes to public safety, I think that the biggest concern right now across the district, especially with
He's frozen.
seniors. So on top of the, seniors don't feel safe walking here in the evening, and many people have expressed that to me as I've been going around throughout the district, and I've been, I'm honored.
Okay, freezing on my computer.
To actually say that I received this, which is the unit that fights. I'm sorry?
You're going in and out, Avi.
Do you not hear me?
No, I'm going to mute you for a little bit.
Okay.
Bye. No, because it's going in and out and it's making a lot of noise.
So, you
Now
know
it's
what, let me-
freezing again. So, sorry, Avi. Now, there are a lot of fiery questions coming into the chat here. And we're not going to make this a brawl because we all love each other, okay? But I do want to talk about a lot of people who are voting like to judge a candidate based on their alignment with other politicians. So one of the questions that I'm deducing from the chat is about the council member Karen Kozlowitz and your relationship with her. So do we want to raise our hands? Like, I don't know if she's very controversial, but do we like her? Do you want to raise your hand if you agree with how she's governed during her time?
Well, I agree with her to some kind of degree, not fully agree with her.
Okay. Does anyone want to talk about this specifically? There's a question about who she endorsed or who worked for her. Do we want to talk about that maybe as a group in a?
Yeah, maybe I'll say something, Scott, I think is non-controversial. I think Councilmember Kozlowitz has been a great leader for the community for many years. I think some of the frustrations from the community in the last few years have been that some constituent services maybe haven't been as up to par as they have been in the past. But I think Councilmember Kozlowitz has done a pretty adept job of navigating some of the hot button issues in the community. But again, I think the last couple of years, people have felt overlooked, and they feel like when they make a call into the office, they don't know if they can get a return, right? They don't know if they're going to get a response. And that's a serious problem for a local elected leader. We need to be responding to every inbound request for constituent services.
Now I saw Eliseo shaking his head.
Yeah, let me jump in on this guy. So I'll just start off by saying that Richmond Hill doesn't know who their council member is. We have 4 different neighborhoods that comprise our district. And when you have people that don't know who the representative is, how are they supposed to get services or get information on what's happening? I find that is emblematic of her overall tenure governing this district. I encourage you to try to Google Karen Kozlowitz and see what you can come up with in terms of what she has done for the community when it comes to homelessness, when it comes to small businesses, voting in a borough jail into Kew Gardens that have people absolutely livid, myself one of them. So when it comes to what she's done for the district, and again, I don't want to go on too much of a rant, but I'll just keep it at missing in action. Path of least resistance, keep things as they are. No storefront office, you're tucked away in Forest Hills Tower. People don't know where to go or how to find you. Inaccessible and very controversial for the wrong reasons. And again, it's a major reason why I'm running, because people feel like they've been left out of this process. And I'm talking about not just Richmond Hill, but if you're a homeowner on Metropolitan Avenue and you feel like you've been left behind as well, or if you're living in Regal Park, or if you're in a different part of Forest Hills and you're thinking, what has local government done for me recently? You would get not much. You really wouldn't. So if you're going to ask, I think a lot of people will say that, again, just hasn't been an effective council member to spearhead any major issues. And I'll stand by that if anyone wants to come back at that.
Any other responses to that? And then I do want to talk about the jail too.
So can I also say something about our council member Kozlowitz? I think, the biggest thing that I don't agree with her is that she supports the jail. She said she has to agree with the jail plan to be on the table. So we don't understand that. So she doesn't listen to her community's voice. So because we know the both community board 8 and 9 have voted unanimously to vote against the jail, but then she still insists that she has to agree with the jail's plan to be on the discussion table. So I strongly oppose that. But I think I like her. She is an outspoken person. So she say what she believes. She doesn't pretend like many politicians do. And I'm thankful for her to support us on many education-oriented issues, like for the SHAT, like for the GNT, like for the school diversity plan. So for at least for that perspective, she does listen to the constituents' voice. She listens to our voice. She listens to the parents from Queens Parents United's voice, and she supports the parents to demand DOE to have transparency and more community engagement. So for that perspective, I thank her, and I know that she brought a lot of resources for the community. And actually, 4 of us, we were just with her in the rally. So I mean, she was shaking hands with other people. So yeah, I agree and I disagree with her. So that's my view. Thank you. Thank you, Sky.
Yes, Lynn Schulman.
So, I want to say something that I think is really important. None of us are running against her, okay? We're running for an open seat. We're running for the future of this community. I mean, I'm going to be upfront. Karen has endorsed my candidacy because of my deep roots in the community, but I don't, we're different people, and I'm running for the future of the community. As an example, I'm against the jail. And there are many other issues where, I would do things slightly differently, but she's been somebody she's actually, I think if not one of the longest serving members of the city council. And I remember when she first got elected, and she did a tremendous amount of work on a lot of issues, including public safety, including a whole host of things. And so, like I said, we're running for an open seat, and we're not running against her. So I don't think that that's fair. And by the way, I just want to say that apart from her supporting me, I have a coalition of grassroots support that includes Assemblymember Catalina Cruz, that includes Congresswoman Grace Meng, that includes Roadmap for Progress, that includes the League of Conservation Voters. So, but I really want to say that we should talk about the future of the district and not talk about that. I think that that's unfair to all of us and the community.
Okay.
I'd like to add, I agree with that. We're not running against Karen Koslowitz. You can also work for somebody and not, agree with every single thing that they do. I was a community activist. I, solved a lot of constituent issues, thousands of constituent issues in District 29. And, I was a voice for people that felt like they had no hope, right, with city government. There was a recent visit that I did to a constituent, had their entire apartment damaged from water that was putting out a fire in an upstairs apartment. Landlord dragged their feet, did not repair the apartment for a while before she contacted us. And when we got involved, we got it done, right? The repairs were done pretty quickly. But these are the type of cases where the city council can step in and solve and cut red tape. And that's exactly what I did when I worked in the city council. So this, like Lynn said, is for the future of the community. It's people, who know how to navigate the bureaucracy. And I can confidently say that as somebody who worked in the city council and knows the structures of the city council, as well as the city government as a whole.
Okay. Fair answer. Yes.
I was actually wondering if we could move on to talking about the jail, since we're all running for city council right now. I'd be happy to get us kicked off on that, if that's okay. Yes. So I think, I guess now we're all in alignment that we don't want the jail. But I do think it's worth starting with the reality that we are here because of the failed leadership that got us here in the first place. There are many things that can be said about any council person, but the reality is that Karen Koslowitz did vote in favor of this jail, that she did use that vote to get homeless families out of a hotel across the street from it. We have a homelessness crisis right now, and these things are intertwined. And when we talk about a change, I think we have to be honest about what that means. I think that continuing that type of leadership that did not listen to the community about the jail, that ignored our pleas and our cries to not build that jail, to close the hotel across the street when there was problems, that, the community members aren't listened to in Richmond Hill and Kew Gardens about what's happening in our neighborhoods. But the jail above all else, continuing that type of leadership will be an absolute disaster for our community. And that is continued leadership. It's time that we offer something different. Now, when we talk about the jail, I am against it. We're at this point fairly limited in what we can do about it because the lawsuits that our neighbors had put forth about, Article 78 essentially saying that the ULERT process didn't take enough community input into consideration, have been thrown out by the court. I think the best thing that I'll be able to do in the city council is to do everything I can to block funds going to the construction of the jail. I would have voted against it if I were in council. And then we need to really look at and divert any need for jails in New York City, right? That's what I mean when I talk about a just budget. I want to spend money on things like permanent supportive housing. Everyone's complaining about our homeless neighbors, but if your problem is that you're seeing them and not that they are homeless, you need to get right within. That's like a look at yourself problem. We live in the richest city, in the richest country in the world, and we can absolutely make housing first a priority for all of our neighbors because every single New Yorker, housed or not, deserves a life of dignity. We can and we must absolutely close Rikers Island. It is a stain on our history as a city full of rampant human rights abuses. And the way that we can close Rikers Island and not build new jails is by investing in supportive housing with wraparound services, is by investing in reentry programs, is by investing in harm reduction, treating substance abuse disorder like a health issue, which is what it is. It's a healthcare issue. Treating mental illness is a health issue and a human issue, which is what it is. And investing in root causes. If throwing money into incarceration and policing our neighbors were going to solve our problems, New York City would be a problem-free place because no one spends money on those things better than we do. For every $1 we spend on incarcerating and policing our neighbors, we spend 1 penny on workforce investment. And so I want to talk about a bigger, better, brighter future. That's why I have the support of actual grassroots organizations like Vocal New York, Working Families Party, Sunrise Movement, the Jewish Vote, Assemblymember Ron Kim, Zephyr Teach Out, and many more. A better future is possible if we build it together.
Thank you, Aleda. And a question that came in while you were speaking, someone asked, does that mean you're for defunding the police? And I know that that's a phrase that's overused and probably abused, but from what I've learned talking about funding supportive programs instead of taking money from the police, but I'll let you explain how your angle falls into that.
Yeah, I think that, you can call it whatever is useful, defunding the police, divesting, right-sizing the police budget. At the end of the day, I think a lot of folks don't realize that NYPD currently has a budget so big that it qualifies as the 33rd largest military in the world. That's a bigger military than many first world nations have. That's absurd. We have offices in 20 other locations outside of this country. We have 6 submarines. We're spending $75,000 a year on robot dogs. We spent $175 million last year on beating protesters violently. That's $175 million that could go into things like healthcare, housing, education, our kids, making sure that our elders can age in place. If policing were going to solve all of our social problems, they would be fixed by now. The only city that spends more per capita on police than New York City is Chicago. And the fact of the matter is that even in Republican cities that have been investing more money into their police departments, crime is still going up because our entire country across the board is in crisis. Most of the crimes happening are crimes of poverty.
Oh, I don't know who said that. Yes, I know. Thank you. I don't mean to cut anyone off, but I do want to give other people a chance to talk about the jail, public safety. Go ahead.
I'll keep this as brief as possible so that other people can have their chance to speak on the issue as well. I'll say that I agree to a point with Ms. Gagarin's point on needing to have long-term criminal justice reform and investing into the community, but I disagree wholeheartedly when it comes to defunding the police, especially at a time when we have an increase in violent crime, not just in our district, but as I've said before, across our city. I mean, when you have a shooting in Times Square in the middle of trying to get the city back on its feet and attracting tourism so that we can have long-term economic growth with our restaurants, with our coffee shops, with our arts and cultural venues, it doesn't look good. We need to make sure that we're responding to these Asian hate crimes, to these burglaries and shootings of our businesses, to the assaults on our everyday citizens on our streets with our 112th and our 102nd precinct. We're not going to out-educate our way out of people committing evil acts on our streets. It's just not going to happen. But when it does come to things like, for example, a social program that I want to look into for example, those that are homeless with mental illnesses, I want to push for a revamp of Kendra's law so we can break through this cycle of incarcerating and hospitalizing people that are homeless with mental illnesses and then just releasing them back onto the streets with their own devices. Again, I'd be happy to go further into that, but just for the sake of moving this conversation along, if anybody else wants to throw their 2 cents into the borough jail or to public crime or to defunding the police.
I would just push back on one thing. A lot of people like to cite the Times Square incident, which was absolutely tragic, and my heart breaks for that family. But Times Square is one of the most heavily policed and guarded areas in the world, and it still didn't stop the shooting.
Right.
So it's not really a good example.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Can I also push back on that, or? Okay.
Really quick, because I want to we have just a few minutes.
I'll keep it really short. To use the term defund the police, and I'll just say this speaking as honestly and candidly as I can, this is a district that is not, for example, Astoria or Long Island City that is all up for example, putting the police into a corner, saying that they're the enemy. There are a large number of people in this.
I've never called them the enemy.
Connections to the police. They've been in the police themselves, and they're part of the community. We need to make sure that they are part of the solution, and we can't just put them onto some exile island and say, okay, we're going to figure this out without you. Don't come and don't interfere. That's not the way.
Scott, I'd like to add one thing, because let's look at the stats. I'm a numbers guy, and violent crime absolutely is increasing year over year in this city, and it's increased in our neighborhood as well. But if we look around, actually, statistically, our neighborhood, when you compare it to other neighborhoods, is relatively safe. So that's a great thing. Still, one crime is a crime too many. What I hear most of the time speaking to folks is that they're afraid of folks with severe mental disabilities. So afraid getting harassed by people, threatened by people. Often this is in the Forest Hills, sometimes in Kew Gardens area, around train stations, okay? This is very personal for me. My brother was diagnosed with bipolar schizophrenia when I was 15 years old. And honestly, if we didn't have the resources that we had, his life would have turned out very different. He could have died. He could have easily gone to jail. He did go to jail a couple of times, but he could have been in jail for much longer. And so what we're doing when we neglect folks that are experiencing severe mental illnesses is it's a stain on the character of our society. We're not taking care of the most vulnerable people. Many of these people do not wish to be in the position that they are in. And so this city has unfortunately contributed to the mental illness problem because we haven't built a few reasons, but one reason is we haven't built enough affordable housing. And the homelessness population has increased tenfold in my lifetime because too many neighborhoods say no to new development.
I want to bring more people into this conversation. Sorry. Let's hear.
Last thing I'll end on is that we cannot expect folks in our community with severe mental illnesses to just disappear and go away. That's not realistic. We need to have a plan where we're making sure we're providing the necessary wraparound services and outreach to people so they get the help that they need.
Thank you. Let's hear from Lynn Schulman on this issue, the jail, public safety.
Yeah, there are two issues. So one, everybody is entitled to feel safe. And the premise, one of the basic premises of government is to keep people safe. I mean, when I've been talking to people, I have a young Asian woman in my building who told me that she's afraid to go out because she got accosted verbally for being Asian on Queens Boulevard, and we can't have things like that happen. So that's a major issue. But with that, I think we need to reimagine what public safety is, and I think by doing that, we need to have the police focus on crime and work and have people with mental health issues and homelessness not part of that effort, so that we have community-based organizations and agencies that are supposed to be working with outreach and taking care of these individuals who actually don't. There are audits that have been done by the state controller and the city controller showing that that doesn't necessarily happen. One of the responsibilities of the city council is oversight. So we would have oversight over those agencies to make sure that is done. So that's number one. Secondly, in terms of the jail, you know, I am opposed to the jail. I mean, the community was not listened to, and the de Blasio administration is moving full force to make that happen. I think that we do. By the way, I've been a volunteer for many years with the Fortune Society, where my late partner worked, and I actually have people who are formerly incarcerated who are volunteers on my campaign. And there are things we can do, but we also have to distinguish between bad acts, which is most of the crime that's done, and also bad actors that we need to have incarcerated for to protect you know, the public and to protect themselves. And so we need to distinguish that. And I learned that through the Fortune Society, but the jail is just, the promises that were made about the jail haven't happened because the administration has just stepped over the community. We have the de Blasio administration has been a top-down administration where they say, this is what's going to happen, and that's the end of it. And so we really—
Lynn, you were at the right hand of the city council speaker when this happened. So
in the community,
you're at the right hand of the city council speaker when this happened, the jail happened. So if you couldn't get it done then, why will you get it done? How can we expect you to get it done as the next city council?
Listen, I worked in the community engagement division, so don't call, I'm not a right hand to anybody. I'm my own person, and I will tell you that when I worked in the council, I'm assigned to a committee. So the committee I was assigned to was the General Welfare Committee. So I worked with the Department of the Homeless. I worked with homeless individuals. I did a lot of work around that. So that wasn't about, you know, I wasn't the right hand. I wasn't in the leadership of the council. So that's very unfair to say. What I will say is that I have the experience and I know how the budgets work and everything else and by the way, the vote that was done was not a capital vote, it was a land use vote, which means that it's out of the hands of the council. It's actually really in the hands of the mayor. Aleda was right before that there's a limit on what you can do with that. And we have to talk to the next administration and see how they're going to move forward. I will tell you that they're breaking ground. This administration is going to break ground before the end of the year, and which is very unfortunate. But it's—
Derek, I see Derek has a hand raised. I want to try and get to everyone because you're right. We are
Okay, yeah.
30, but
Okay. I don't think anybody likes the jail. Like I don't think anybody like mass incarceration. But to be realistic, you know, crimes happens. So we have to have the jail to put a criminal in. So to me, Rikers is in the center of the 5 boroughs. So all the issues which is blamed on the Rikers, the trial delay, the corruption, the abusement. So nothing has to do with the location. Moving from Rikers to other places, it simply doesn't work. In the meantime, we have to have the jail facility. So the best way, the most efficient way is to renovate Rikers, keep Rikers open, fix whatever needs to be fixed there. And for the defunding police, it's insane. So I mean, of course, we don't. If there's no crime, there's nothing happen, then we don't need the police. But every day crimes happen, and shootings and killings have double digits been increasing from 2019 to 2020, and then from 2021 again. So now, I mean, I see the increase of the crime was contributed by a few factors. Defunding the police, now we don't have enough funding. We don't have enough headcount for the police. So how can we let the police, you know, do the same job when there were fewer of them? And secondly, so the catch and release game, you know, the law that's passed by the state legislatures, you know, the no cash bail reform. So I mean, criminals, you know, they did something, but the police spent big effort, catch them, and they were released right away. They committed a new crime. So I mean, we don't like jail, but we have to be realistic. The jail, the police have to be there to keep our city safe.
let's hear for Edwin.
I
Let's
just want to. All right, Edwin.
Can I go? All right. So
have closing
again,
statements being said there.
yeah, can I go, Eliseo? just
Yeah,
a
that's-
couple quick
go
things.
ahead, Edwin.
So again, I just want to add on to some of what folks are saying. I think ideally, like I think the root of the problem is how do we reduce incarceration? How do we get more folks not to be put into jail, whether it be a homeless person, whether it be someone with mental illness, whether it be someone that has drug problems, issues, and we should do programs for that. So again, I don't think, if we can fund those programs, I think that's what we need. That'll reduce some of the incarceration, no need for the jails. I think the other thing that we can also do is, work with the community to figure out how do we, if you're going to put a homeless shelter or any other things, I think work with the community. I think people don't want whether it be a homeless shelter in the neighborhood, but again, homeless people are people. But again, I think we also need to look at and remember, this year is the 20th anniversary of 9/11. I don't know if people remember that, but again, I do. And so one of the things we need to make sure is back then everyone was supportive of the police. I think we need to support the police. Again, everyone mentioned the anti-Asian violence that's going on. How do we protect the citizens? And I'm not just talking about the Asian citizens. I'm talking about all citizens. We need to really protect all citizens of New York and make sure we are able to work with everyone. And also in terms of I think a lot of it is also employment. Like I said, I think if we can provide employment, a lot of folks are out of work still. People are forgetting that. If we can continue to provide employment, I think things will help in terms of our recovery.
Thank you. An hour isn't enough time, but we also don't want to bore everyone to death. But there are a lot of different opinions here that we got to really just touch on. So it is 7:32. Normally I would have you do a closing statement, but instead, if we want to go around really quick and maybe say your one last phrase or one word or one phrase that you want to leave with these voters that differentiates you from the rest. And let's begin with David Aronov.
It's time for a new generation of leadership.
Now, Avi.
Above all, while we all have opinions on very different matters, our job is, as a council member, to represent the people of the district. I think it is imperative to get the opinions too long.
Yes.
I was so patient the whole time, letting everyone get their word in. I'm like, let me say something. Okay, I'll make it really quick. Above all, I am here to represent the people that live in this district, and I intend to do that by listening, by collaborating, and by really representing each of you and what's important to you in the right way.
Thank you. Aleda.
A just and caring city that recognizes the dignity of all New Yorkers and helps them thrive is absolutely possible if we build it together, and I look forward to doing that.
Thank you. Eliseo.
Leadership for common sense reform, protecting our neighborhoods, and investing in our neighborhoods.
Thank you. Lynn Schulman.
I have a lifetime of service and deep roots in our community. I have a proven track record of building coalitions to make change, and I will do that in the city council to make our communities thrive.
Thank you. Doug Shapiro.
Empathy, narcissist whisperer, support our seniors.
We should talk. I have parents that are narcissists. Edwin Wong.
Hi, everyone. So again, I'm running again just to bring unity and leadership, both through my professional career as well as in the community. I've always found common ground to bring everyone together. And I think in unity is what we need to do right now. That's how I end a lot of my emails, in unity. So that's what I will bring to the council. And I do want to just publicly thank, Karen Koffowitz, just because there is no Far Association Allowance report. And so I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Derek Zang.
Okay, I will bring more common sense into the city council, and I will get every child good education, and I will bring back safety to our streets, our park, and our subway. Thank you, Sky.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for being part of this fast and fun and furious a little bit. I know there was a lot of action in the chat. Listen, we're here, Schneps Media PoliticsNY, to amplify what you want to get out there. So I think I've interviewed everyone except for Aleda. So Aleda, if we can find a time to do the 3 questions in 3 minutes, that would be great. We're here to amplify. Oh, and Derek too. We're here to amplify you. Submit op-eds, tag us on social media. We'll repost everything. So thank you so much. Thank you to the candidate. Thank you to the.
Thank you so much, Sky.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Take
Glad
care.
to see you, everyone. Aleda, Lynn, Ed,
Bye.
Doug.
Bye.
And